Hello and welcome to the latest in our Getting Started series for O&M Profiler ESP. Now this session follows directly on from the TVC session. We're going to show you the transition from a TVC quote into APTA modelling. If you haven't watched the TVC video, I really would recommend that you do. The two are very closely linked and I'll be starting from exactly where we left off in that previous video. Okay, let's assume everyone's seen that now and let's dive into the quote. So as ever, from our home screen, open the menu, and we can go into our existing transfer quote. Now you can get there under the three little dots, you can get there through the search, looking at existing quotes, you can even open the client and open the quote from there. I tend to use the three little dots all the time, works well for me, and it shows me my most recent quote in that area. So there's the quote that I ran for the TVC. Let's open that one up and see where we left it. Okay, so hopefully this is familiar to you. This is where we left the quote last time around. When you're moving into APTA, we only take one product as a default selection. So whichever product you've got highlighted on the TVC grid, that'll be the one that we start modelling with. So it's important that you pick the products you want to use. You can change that on the APTA side. You can bring in all the products, you can bring in just a couple, change the products, you can do all those sorts of things, and I'll show you that. But for now, let me just select the plan I'm going to use, this Royal London Pension Portfolio, and then we'll go into the APTA quote after that. Okay, so as ever, click on our menu down the bottom. We've got all our different options we can do, but this time round we're going to continue to APTA. Okay, so our quote's loaded and we've got these two modelling scenarios side by side. If you've used our retirement income modeler before, this hopefully will look a bit familiar to you. If you haven't, don't worry, all we're doing here is comparing two scenarios. So I'll talk through what we've got on screen. We've got option 1, as it says at the top here, stay with DB scheme, and option 2, transfer to flexible pension. And we've got a little summary of both of those there, so it shows us any shortfall, i.e. any time where we don't fulfill our target income. It shows us how much tax we've paid, it shows us how much lifetime allowance we've used. If we had any surplus income and we banked that, it shows us that. But the system's made a few assumptions here. What we haven't done is model our real life client. So we need to make some changes to this quote so that it reflects our client's needs in retirement and also what sources of income they've got. So we're going to go in and make changes to this quote. So again, down the bottom to our menu. And you can see there's lots of things we can do under here. The two that are important to us at this stage are the current plans and the edit scenarios. So in current plans, as you can see there, add, amend or remove plans. So we're going to tell it some extra details about other sources of income this client's got. And then in the scenario editors, we're going to tweak the target incomes and things like that. So let's go in and add some extra plans. You can see my DB scheme is pulled through already. That's the one we created for the TVC. That's what this is all about. But we're going to add in some extra ones. So let's start by clicking add plan. And you can see under here there's lots of different types of plans you can add. I'm going to start by adding a stocks and shares ISA. I'm going to pick a product just so it gives it an automatic name. You can obviously change that name if you want, and enter in the current value of £100,000. The system will grow that up until it's needed to be used. It'll use whatever growth rate assumptions you set in here. It'll use whatever product charges you set in here. So it's worth reviewing those and making sure you're happy with them. There's lots of other clever things you can do in our retirement modeler, such as setting a specific use for this plan, available from retirement age. You can see there you can change the date this plan becomes available, all sorts of things like that. We're not going to go into that in this session. We'll probably cover that in the future in an advanced modeling session. But for now, just know all you need to do really is add in details of the plans that you've got. If there's just the one plan, you can press OK and go back to the default grid. If you've got more to add, those nice and quick to just click add another plan. And it'll get you back to the same thing but a new one. So I'm going to show you a slightly different type of plan this time, just so you've got some examples of different inputs. We're going to do earned income this time around, and they're going to take a part-time job. Okay. So we're asking for the gross salary. The system's going to work out the tax for you, so it needs to know everything in gross. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say this is £8,000, and you can see you get the choices when this starts. Whether it's already in payment or whatever else. So I'm going to leave it at age, but I'm going to start it from age 60, which is when this model starts from. You can see that in the background there. It starts from age 60 because that's where we left our TVC. We left it modelling early retirement, so this is just flowing directly on from how we left the TVC. They're not going to work for the rest of their lives, thankfully, so let's set an age for that to stop, and we'll do that at the age the state pension kicks in. Again, systems automatically work that out for us. So it's age 67. Okay. And you can see then the 3 plans this client's got. I'm done with adding new plans. That's what this client's got to fund their retirement. So the next thing we need to do is tell the system a little bit more about what they need in retirement. So let's head over to the scenarios. So the important thing with APTA is that it's very much modeling on the rails. What we do is we keep the 2 channels in sync. So if you make a change to option 1, it'll make the same change to option 2. If you're doing a full-blown modeling quote, you can change the assumptions in each channel. You can do all sorts of different things. You can still do that to an extent with APTA, but really what we're comparing here is we're comparing the option to stay in the scheme or to transfer out of it. So we do want to keep things like the target income levels the same, the plans included, all those sorts of things, so that we can actually paint a clear picture of if the client can fund their retirement from staying in the scheme or transferring. So as a result, what that means is any change I make to option 2 will be the same in option 1. So let's go in and do that. So the system has assumed the target income. Basically, it's assumed the target income that is slightly higher than the combination of the state pension and the DB scheme. Rationale being, you're coming into model specific circumstances, you'll want something a bit higher and it can fill that gap. But really, most times you're going to come in and customize this anyway. So let me just round that up a little bit. They actually want 20,000 in retirement. Now that's the base level. It's after tax. It takes inflation into account. So that's the actual take home that they're going to have. And what you do is you set the annual income to be the lowest level that ever needs to be. Because you notice down here, we've got include additional income needs. We can add in any one-off payments that they need to make, if they need to fund care fees at the end, if they're looking for family holidays at the start, paying off the mortgage, buying a new car, whatever it might be, you can add all those extra top-ups in through the additional income needs. So let's add one of those in now, and add additional income needs. And we'll start with a family holiday. That's £10,000, and it starts when they retire, and it's a one-off. So you can see some of the other options there. You can control when these kick in and everything else, but we're just going to leave it like that for now. So we've changed the target income to 20,000, and we've added a one-off goal at retirement of £10,000 to fund the family holiday. You'll notice we've also ticked this use tax allowances button. That's done by default, and what that tells the system is that you want to use taxable income sources up to the basic allowance. So if you've got an ISA and a pension, for example, like we have in this situation, it'll take the first 11,850 out of the pension or earned income or whatever else it might be that's taxable, and then it'll fund the remainder, the 8,500, from tax-free income sources if it can. So it's trying to minimize the tax burden on this client. It's also worth having a look at the assumptions used. So the system again defaults a lot of these things. Obviously an important part of APTA is that you need to model appropriate growth rates for the investment you're suggesting. So the system knows the fund specific growth rates for any new plans that you put in. You can also choose to not have tax on, not include state pension. Really, I would recommend you leave those two alone. You can also choose, if they've got any surplus income, to reinvest that. There's different options under here. I'm going to leave everything on the defaults for now, and we'll just OK that. Okay, so as I say, it'll have made the same changes in option 1 in this stay in scheme. Yeah, trust me on that, but you'll see it in the chart in a second. So let's click OK and draw those charts. Excellent. So we've got an updated chart on both sides. You can see there's still a shortfall on this side, but it's a bit less, and there's no shortfall on the transfer side. In fact, even better, we've got £403,000 left at age 100, so there's a good pot there for them to play with. If you're happy with that, you want to get a report now, it's dead easy. Up here to reports, new report, and you've got the retirement income comparison report. That's going to talk about the two options, talk about the pros and cons, and show all sorts of extra things for the client. You can also include the tax appendix. That just goes into a little bit more detail on tax. I'm not going to go through those reports now, just because we could spend the rest of the video talking about the reports, and I'd rather get you up to speed with using the system and exploring it and everything else. But if you've got any questions about those reports, please do send them through, and we'll be happy to talk that through with you. Okay, so if we just have a quick look at the chart for a second, what we're saying is we've got all the different sources of income here. You can see all the different colours that apply for each different pot. You can see when they kick in. You can see we've got our Royal London pension plan down the bottom. I did mention that was easy to change. Let me just show you that on the modeler quote button. Filter products. So if you click on that, you can choose which filters apply to that side. You can add in extra plans, do whatever you need to do. So as well as the report, you might want to dig a little bit deeper into some of the specifics of this quote. You might want to have a look at the yearly breakdowns, the tax, lifetime allowance, all those things. So let's step through those and show you what's included. Okay, so first one, yearly breakdowns. Very similar to what we were just looking at. Difference this time around is we've got all of the year by year values as well, showing you where all the money is. If you zoom any of these charts, you get a larger view for a start. You can also export that, so you can include the image in your own documents if you want. And if you step through these icons here, you'll see we've got, again, the numbers behind there. You can export them out to Excel if you want to do your own reporting on it. And finally, we've got the notes behind the chart. And that's always useful because that tells you exactly what you're looking at in the chart and anything else that you can do with that information. Tax analysis next. As I say, the system is calculating the tax that you're going to pay, or the client's going to pay rather. So it shows you here that they're going to consistently pay tax on that side. They haven't got any tax until 86 on that side. And obviously we had the totals on the previous page. Lifetime allowance. Lots of information about lifetime allowance. We've got income needs. This shows us, firstly, in inflation terms, what their target income is. Obviously, we didn't make it very exciting. We just added one additional one-off goal. I've actually added these two slides in myself, so they're not on the default dashboards. There is going to be a dedicated session that shows you how to manipulate dashboards and how to do all sorts of things like that. But in the meantime, if you want to add something like that in yourself, it's really easy. You just click on the button for the dashboard you're on, view slides, and add the slides into the dashboard. As I say, we'll do a dedicated session, but I particularly like these two because they show the nominal version of the target income. So it's always a bit of a revelation to see by the time this client gets to 100, their 20,000 a year has actually become nearly 64,000. If we head finally to market conditions, so it's possible in all of our modelling scenarios to add in market conditions to show what would happen if there was a stock market crash, for example, or whatever else. By default, we haven't turned that on. So what we're looking at here is consistent growth rate, and you can see the fund size of the various pots that they've got, the ISA and the pension. This last slide is, as they say, left intentionally blank. This is for you to add your own in, create your own dashboards, your own layout, however you want to do it. Again, you don't need to engage with it if you don't want to, but if you do, it's a really powerful part of the system that lets you customize it to exactly as you want. If you go back to the actual quote, let's have a look at those market conditions. Let's see if we can tweak those. So, edit scenarios. Again, we can do it on either side. We'll do it on the flexible pension one again, and include market conditions. Now you can see we've got some system supplied ones. You can create your own as well. I'm just going to stick it on bad performance and early retirement with recovery. So if I OK that, and that, and you can see it's had an impact on both sides. Actually, you run out of the ISA a little bit earlier, so the shortfall's bigger. And although there isn't a shortfall on this side, that maturity value of 405,000 has dropped all the way down to 125,000. So it's definitely something for the client to consider. If we go back to the market conditions slide, and there we can see the picture that it's painting. These are the reduced growth rates that we've used with the recovery, and it shows you the impact it's had on the various fund sizes. So again, if you want to get those charts out, zoom them, export them, and you can include them in any of your own documentation as well as our reports. One last thing to show you, if we head back to the actual modeler quote again, and this time around what I'm going to look at is taking PCLS and a reduced pension from the first slide. So if we come back into the edit scenarios, slightly different this time around because this is something that only affects the DB scheme. So I'm going to make the change on the DB scheme side. So I'm going to turn off the market conditions just to keep it clean. But you'll see the option we've got down here of take a reduced amount and tax-free cash. Let's tick that box. Okay. So you can see under actions, you've got a few choices here. Transfer, obviously we're not going to do that because the whole point of this is it's stay in scheme, but you've got that option in case you've got multiple DB schemes that you need to consider for the whole model. Take the full pension, which is what we were doing, effectively the same as not ticking that box in the first place. And then these last two, which are the ones I want to talk about. So you can take your tax-free cash as a lump sum. That means it will ignore your target income completely and just take all the money out. I personally prefer to use it to meet target income, which is this second one. What that does is it says I'm going to use the tax-free cash when I need to. So I'm not just going to spend it all up front. If I only need 10,000 extra at the start, well, I'll only use 10,000 of the PCLS. The rest will be banked and used when it's needed. So, if you've got someone who wants to pay off their mortgage, just make sure you set the additional income needs to cover that, and all of this will take care of itself. And that's the default option as well. Okay, so once we've set that, the only other thing to look at here is the commutation factors. So you'll see we've got 12:1 in here. That's the system default. Obviously, it's not going to apply in every single case. It's something you're going to have to check on the paperwork and then come back and change in here. If you want to change it though, it's dead easy. Just click on the little edit icon. That'll take you into the current plan editor, and under scheme and transfer details, you can tweak the commutation rates. So I'm going to do exactly that, tick in the box, and the ones I've got is actually a much bigger number, 7.2. Okay. And you see that's updated there. When we come out of this and redraw. Okay, and there's another scenario for this client. I think from memory that looks slightly better than it did when they didn't take the PCLS and reduced pension, so perhaps that's an option for them. If we want to go back to the TVC quote at any point, it's dead easy. We just click on the return to TVC. I mentioned earlier that this is kind of modelling on the rails. If you want to go off-piste a little bit and get a bit more adventurous with the modelling quote, perhaps you've got the TVC and APTA sorted, but you want to look at different options for them transferring, you can easily create a modelling quote from here as well. Just click on the More Quotes button and go into the Retirement Modeler. But for now, we're just going to go back to our TVC. And the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that these charts have changed slightly because now they're taking into account the PCLS as well, because we turned on the PCLS in the client. You might want to regenerate your TVC report to reflect that. Again, dead easy to do. Okay, so if you've watched both of these videos now, hopefully you're in a position where you can enter your own TVC quote. You can then take that into APTA. You can add in the client's other sources of income. You can tailor the income needs to meet their requirements, and you can follow the full APTA process within the system. Thanks for watching.